You spent $4 on a gallon of milk this week because someone told you calcium builds strong bones. You spent $6 on organic spinach because a commercial convinced you it's the healthiest green on the planet. You bought calcium supplements because your doctor mentioned bone density, and you got worried about your future health as you age. And right now, in your backyard, in the cracks of your driveway, in the edges of your garden beds, there's a plant with 250% more calcium than that milk you just bought, 45% more protein than that expensive organic spinach, more iron, more vitamin A, more vitamin C, more of almost everything that makes a vegetable nutritionally valuable to your body. You've been spraying it with herbicide every single summer, ripping it out by the roots every time you see it appear in your garden, paying lawn care companies to eliminate it from your property year after year. This plant is called lamb's quarters, and the USDA has the nutrition data to prove every single thing I just said. Let me show you the exact numbers from the government's own database that they publish for anyone to access. According to the USDA National Nutrient Database, raw lamb's quarters contains 309 milligrams of calcium per 100 grams of edible plant material. Whole milk contains approximately 120 milligrams per 100 grams. That's not a small difference. That's not a marginal improvement. That's 2.5 times more calcium in the plant you've been actively killing than in the milk you've been buying at the grocery store every single week for your entire adult life. The dairy industry has spent billions of dollars over decades convincing you that milk builds strong bones. Got milk campaigns featuring celebrities and athletes, school lunch programs requiring milk purchases, constant advertising messaging in every medium, food pyramid recommendations pushed by industry lobbyists. Lamb's quarters builds bones better, and it costs absolutely nothing. But here's what makes this even more remarkable and frustrating once you understand the full picture. Quick thing. If these numbers are shocking you, tap subscribe. I reveal hidden nutrition facts every single week. And the next video exposes a tree you can plant once and harvest continuously for 40 years straight without ever buying another seed. Now let me show you the protein comparison that nobody in the food industry wants to talk about publicly because it threatens their business model. Spinach is marketed as the ultimate healthy green vegetable. Popeye ate it and became incredibly strong in the cartoons that shaped generations of children's eating attitudes. Nutrition articles recommend it constantly as the gold standard of leafy greens. Grocery stores charge premium prices for organic spinach in fancy plastic containers with attractive labels. Spinach contains 2.9 grams of protein per 100 grams of raw leaves. Lamb's quarters contains 4.2 grams per 100 grams. That's 45% more protein in the plant growing absolutely free in your yard than in the spinach you pay $6 a bag for at the supermarket. Nearly half again as much protein from something you've been treating as garbage. This is exactly why older generations called lamb's quarters wild spinach. Because functionally it is spinach in every practical sense. It tastes remarkably similar with a mild green flavor. It cooks the exact same way with the same timing. It works in all the same recipes without any modification needed. It's just significantly more nutritious. And completely free, growing without any effort from you whatsoever. The iron content exceeds spinach. The vitamin A content exceeds spinach. The vitamin C content exceeds spinach. By every meaningful nutritional metric that actually matters for your health. The weed you've been systematically destroying for years outperforms the premium vegetable you've been buying at inflated organic prices. Now let me tell you the history they completely erased from your education in school. Lamb's quarters isn't some newly discovered superfood that modern nutritionists stumbled upon in a research laboratory. Archaeological evidence from multiple continents shows humans have been eating it for over 7,000 documented years. 7,000 years. Older than the pyramids. Older than Stonehenge. Older than written language. Before Europeans colonized the Americas, Native American tribes across the entire continent cultivated lamb's quarters as a major food source and survival crop. The Navajo, the Apache, the Cherokee, the Iroquois, the Blackfoot, the Sioux, all of them harvested this plant as a dietary staple for their communities and taught their children to recognize it. The seeds were ground into flour for bread and porridge that sustained families through harsh winters. The leaves were eaten fresh in the spring or cooked like any other green vegetable throughout the growing season. The entire plant was valued and absolutely nothing was wasted. In Europe, lamb's quarters was a major food crop during the Iron Age and throughout the medieval period when it kept peasant populations alive. Before spinach was even introduced from Persia, lamb's quarters was the primary leafy green that fed European civilization for centuries. During the Great Depression of the 1930s, lamb's quarters kept American families alive when there was no money for groceries and store shelves sat empty. When stores were empty, when prices were impossible, when parents couldn't afford to feed their children, they foraged what grew wild in fields and along roadsides. Lamb's quarters was on every forager's list because it grew absolutely everywhere and provided nutrition superior to anything you could buy in stores. Your grandmother probably ate this plant. Your great-grandmother almost certainly did. They understood instinctively that the land provides abundantly if you know what to look for and aren't too proud to accept free food. Then something fundamentally changed in American culture after the war ended. After World War II, the American suburb was invented as the new dream of prosperity. The perfect grass lawn became a status symbol of success and middle-class achievement. Home ownership became psychologically tied to lawn maintenance and curb appeal, and the lawn care industry desperately needed enemies to justify its products. They needed weeds, plants to demonize so they could sell you products to eliminate them every single year. Plants that would require ongoing purchases of herbicides and lawn treatments year after year in perpetuity. Lamb's quarters was everywhere. It volunteered in every garden, every yard, every disturbed patch of soil across the entire country without being planted. It was the perfect target for an industry that needed villains to justify its existence and drive sales. They stopped calling it a vegetable. They started calling it a weed. Within a single generation, the plant that fed humanity for 7,000 years became something to poison, something to pull, something to hate and eliminate with expensive chemicals. Drop a comment right now. Have you ever eaten lamb's quarters? Type "been killing it" if you've been destroying this plant in your own yard without knowing what it was. I want to see how many people have been eliminating one of the most nutritious foods on Earth without realizing it. If this is changing how you see your backyard, hit the like button right now. It helps more people discover what they've been systematically destroying for decades. Now let me tell you why lamb's quarters is completely impossible to permanently eliminate from any property, no matter how hard you try or how much money you spend on chemicals. This plant is what botanists classify as a prolific self-seeder. A single healthy lamb's quarters plant can produce over 70,000 seeds in one growing season. 70,000 seeds from one single plant, every summer without fail, year after year after year. Those seeds remain viable in soil for decades, waiting for their chance. Scientific studies have documented successful germination from seeds that were buried in soil for 40 years or more. Seeds your grandmother's plants produced could still sprout in your garden today if you till the soil and bring them to the surface. Every single time you till your garden in spring, you're bringing long dormant seeds back to the surface where they can finally germinate and grow. They sprout within days of exposure to light. They grow rapidly in any conditions. They produce 70,000 more seeds each before fall arrives. Lamb's Quarters has been trying to feed you your entire life. The plant thrives specifically in disturbed soil. Gardens, construction sites, farmland, roadsides, anywhere humans have touched the earth and broken up the ground. It actually grows better in poor soil that would completely stunt other crops. It tolerates drought that kills your tomatoes. It tolerates summer heat that wilts your lettuce. It grows in conditions other plants cannot survive. This plant evolved specifically to grow wherever humans go. It followed our ancestors across continents and oceans over thousands of years of human migration. It adapted to our agricultural practices over millennia. It developed the ability to thrive in the exact conditions humans create around their settlements. It refuses to be separated from us. It's been our companion species for 7,000 years, and it's not leaving now. Herbicides kill the current visible plants, but the seeds survive in the soil completely untouched by chemicals. Next spring, more Lamb's Quarters returns in even greater numbers. More spraying required, more money for lawn care companies, more free food destroyed. The cycle continues. The cycle benefits everyone except you. Here's what you need to know about eating Lamb's Quarters safely and effectively. The leaves are edible, both raw and cooked. When young and tender in spring and early summer, they have a mild, spinach-like flavor, perhaps slightly earthier and more mineral-rich, with a pleasant green taste. They work perfectly in salads, smoothies, or anywhere you'd use baby spinach. Cooked Lamb's Quarters is virtually indistinguishable from spinach in most recipes. Sauté it with garlic and olive oil for a simple side dish. Add it to soups and stews for added nutrition. Blend it into pasta dishes. Use it exactly like any cooking green you'd buy at a store. The seeds are edible too, and surprisingly nutritious. They can be ground into flour for baking bread and other goods. The protein content is comparable to quinoa, that premium health food that costs $10 a pound or more at health food stores. The entire plant is useful from top to bottom. The nutrition is demonstrably superior to store-bought alternatives based on USDA data, and it costs absolutely nothing. One important caution before you start harvesting. Like spinach, beets, Swiss chard, and rhubarb, Lamb's Quarters contains oxalic acid. People with kidney stone issues or known oxalate sensitivity should be aware and possibly limit their consumption accordingly. For everyone else without these specific conditions, it's no different from the spinach you buy and eat without any hesitation whatsoever. Here's how to correctly identify Lamb's Quarters so you harvest the right plant safely. Lamb's Quarters has distinctive diamond-shaped or goosefoot-shaped leaves. That's actually where the scientific name chenopodium comes from, meaning goosefoot in Greek. The undersides of the leaves have a characteristic whitish, powdery coating that rubs off on your fingers when you touch it. This coating is the single easiest identification feature and is quite distinctive once you know to look for it. The plant can grow several feet tall if left undisturbed through the entire growing season. It often appears in vegetable gardens as a volunteer, a guest you didn't invite, but definitely want to keep around once you understand its true value. The stems are often striped with red or purple coloring. The overall appearance is somewhat similar to spinach, but with that distinctive powdery white coating on the undersides of leaves. Once you learn to recognize it, you'll see it absolutely everywhere. Along roadsides, in parking lot edges, in your vegetable garden appearing uninvited, at construction sites, in sidewalk cracks, growing in any disturbed soil, trying desperately to become your food source. 250% more calcium than milk, 45% more protein than spinach. 7,000 years of continuous human consumption across multiple continents, growing free in your backyard right now as we speak. And you've been paying money to destroy it while buying inferior nutrition at the grocery store. The dairy industry never told you about lamb's quarters because they can't sell it. The produce industry never promoted it because it grows free without their involvement. The lawn care industry labeled it a weed because they needed something for you to poison so they could sell chemicals. Share this with someone who buys milk for calcium and spinach for nutrition. They need to see what's been growing free at their feet this entire time. And watch the next video. I'll show you a tree you can plant once and harvest continuously for 40 years straight. The agricultural industry doesn't want you to know it exists because once you plant it, you never need to buy seeds again.